Hello, I'm Olga from Minerva, and today I wanted to share with you my top 10 Butterick patterns. The first pattern that I wanted to share with you is B6895. This is a pattern for a blouse. The reason why I love this pattern is the big collar. This is a trend that I've seen a lot. Depending on what view you choose, you have different sizes of collars. So you can go bigger, you can go smaller, depending on what you're interested in, what you think would look best. So you have a sleeveless, you have a short sleeve, which is actually a puffy sleeve. So we love a puffy sleeve. And then you have a 3/4 length sleeve. This is a really delicate and feminine blouse, and that's why I really love it. And I think it's super versatile because you do have the different kind of sleeves and you do have the different sizes of collar depending on your preference. So you have a lot of choice here for what you want to make. You also have different necklines. So you have a V shape and then you have a more rounded regular neckline for a blouse. Next we have B6871. This is for a really nice dress. I think this is a really good work dress if you have a more retro style. And although this pattern isn't part of their vintage retro line, I think this is a really good example of a pattern that looks vintage and that you can make look vintage. The interesting thing about this pattern is that you actually have different cup sizes. We have the different options of the sleeves. So you have sleeveless, again, short sleeve and a 3/4 length sleeve. You have the option of a collar or no collar, and then you have these beautiful decorative buttons at the front. The skirt is an A-line skirt, so you actually have a little bit of flare without it being a really big skirt. Then you also have the option of having the decorative pockets. A lot of options here. A really versatile dress that I think would be really elegant and would look really good for even everyday wear, depending on your personality and your personal style. Our next pattern is B6682, and this one is part of their retro line. This one is originally from 1952, and you can tell that straight away from this beautiful silhouette that you have here. Also the halter neck, that's a really popular style from the 50s. The big sort of sash around the waist, and also you get a little capelet. I think this is a really classy dress. You could really get a lot of wear out of this. I think depending on what fabric you use with this, you could really make it anywhere from a beach dress to a party cocktail dress. Next we have B6603. And this is a really handsome little jacket, but it has these amazing sleeves. It's a really interesting design and a really different, unusual pattern that I've not really seen a lot of. So you have the option to have visible buttons or invisible buttons. You have the option to add a ruffle at the bottom of the sleeve and the capelet. And then you also have an option to have a collar stand. So it's not a full collar, it's just the collar stands. I think this is just a really lovely cape. So I think this is a really great option for people like me who like big sleeves. Keeping in line with coats, the next pattern is 6497, and this is obviously for a coat. This coat is a knee-length coat, but you also get an option for a waist length. So we have quite a few different options with this. So obviously we have the short jacket with quite a big collar. The button placement is sort of asymmetrical, so that's a really lovely point of interest. Then we also have the same design but with the long coat. Then you have the same design, but in this one you would have the collar be a different fabric or different colored fabric so that you would have the contrast. And then you have, again, the same design of long coat, but instead of getting the big fluffy collar, you would have just the collar stands. A little bit of versatility depending on what you're interested in, but I think this is a really beautiful coat, and I like that it has a cinched waist and then it flares out. So if you wear a lot of big skirts, this would be really nice and really helpful. And again, it's one of those patterns that has a vintage feel and has a retro feel without being retro, without being vintage. Next we have a B6318, and this one is vintage. This is from their retro line, and it is from 1961. So in the early 60s, the big skirt, little waist was still a really popular look, and it wasn't until later in the 60s that the skirts became shorter. Early 60, 61, 62, the silhouette was still very much similar to the late 50s. Really evident in this pattern, you have the really big skirt. The waist is a big focal point. This is an easy make. The options are basically the same dress, but all of the dress made in one fabric, or you can have the belt made from a different fabric. It's another dress that you can, depending on what fabrics you use, you can make it an everyday kind of going to the shops dress or a cocktail dress. It has a lot of potential because it is a really simple silhouette. Then we're moving on to B6137, and this is one of their fast and easy patterns. Trousers can seem really daunting when you're starting to sew because of piecing everything together, but it's actually easier than you might think. So it's a really satisfying project that you can whip up probably in a day. So you have a really nice elasticated waist here, which obviously brings a lot of comfort and a lot of ease fit-wise. Options here, we have the option to make it the front and back in different fabrics, and then you would have the pocket and the cuff of the leg made from the same fabric as you would the back, so you have the contrast in the front. Then you could also just do the exact same design but with all the same fabric. So in views A and B, you have the visible pockets from the outside, and then in views C and D, you would have the pockets sewn into the legs so they wouldn't be visible. And then you have different variations as far as the leg and the cuff go. So you can have the cuffed leg that creates a little bit of volume at the bottom. You could have a half moon shaped leg where it is open wide, and then you can have a normal wide leg that isn't cuffed and is just a small narrow hem. You have quite a few options there. I think trousers are a really great staple for your wardrobe, and because of these are sort of fast and easy, I think this would make a really nice project even if you are intimidated by trousers. Next we have B4790, and this is another fast and easy but also retro pattern, and this one is from 1952. This is a really popular pattern in the vintage sewing community. First of all, you have the classic 50s shape. However, the most interesting, I think, feature about this pattern is that it's extremely easy to make. There's a hole for your head, and it's kind of like a wrap dress. The fact that it is a wrap dress means that the fit is always going to be perfect because you can tie it to whatever your measurements into your body. And that's why this dress is so popular in the community, because you have that beautiful silhouette. It's really easy to make, so even if you're not a very experienced sewist, you can make this, and you at the end have a beautifully fitting dress that looks really complicated and professional, but was super easy to make. So I think this is probably one of my all-time favorite patterns. Yeah, I could talk about this pattern all day, but I will not do that. I will move on to the next one, which is the B6018. And this one is another retro one, and it's actually from the same year. It's also from 1952. This one is a more casual dress. It has the big flared skirt, the cinched waist. It has sort of elbow length sleeves. You can have the hem of the sleeves rolled up a little bit, and then you have different necklines. So you have a more square neckline and then a V shape with a little collar. Again, not a ton of versatility in terms of the design, but a ton of versatility in terms of fabric, because obviously you can use anything from broadcloth, linen, taffeta, so there's a lot of options there. And last but not least, we have the B4443 pattern. I feel like this dress is a really classic staple and shape. It is super versatile, so the fact that you can make 6 completely different variations from one dress means that it is super versatile. So you have view A, which is a strapless dress, then you have view B, which again is strapless but has a belt detail, and it has a contrasting band at the top of the neckline. They all have a flared skirt, really. The skirt is the same for every single one. The only difference is that in view D, you do have the option to add some trim. For view D, you also would add some trim around the waist. And then you have view E, where you would add a decorative bow at the shoulder, and view F, where you have a small short sleeve that covers your shoulder. This actually is a really simple dress to make because you don't have have any darts or anything. You just piece the bodice together. You have the back zipper. So those are all the Butterick patterns that I wanted to share with you today. Those are my top 10. So I hope this video gives you some inspiration as to what is out there in the pattern world. So definitely have a browse on our website through all of the Butterick patterns, and also I will be leaving all of the ones that I mentioned today linked below so you can easily access them if you do want to try these out for yourself. If you do end up making any of these, please don't forget to share them with us. You can register on our website to create a free account where you can then share all of your posts, share videos and photos, and tell other people how you make things, what you did differently, what were the challenges, what you enjoyed about the project. You can link the materials that you used so that other makers can easily access them. People can comment. You can get to know other makers. You can get inspired by looking at what they've created and how they've made something their own. I think that's a really cool feature of our website, is that you have this whole social aspect to it that is just delightful. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!